Hi friends. Today I created this little flamingo that will be pink, and then what I'd like to do is paint this beautiful peony in the middle of his body. I think this is going to be really pretty, and what I'm going to do is today in the first part, let's just paint his body, and then tomorrow part 2 will come back and paint the peony, because there will need to be a little bit of dry time, and the peony is going to take a little bit of time. I want to get into a little bit of different colors and not just the quick brush strokes like I normally do. So today I'm working on my, this is Arches 140 pound. As you know, I normally work on my little favorite Artisto pads, but I wanted something a little bit bigger. So I'm using a bigger sheet of paper. This is actually 9 by 12. And I'm using today, I'll switch back and forth between my Velvet Touch favorite brush, number 8, that I just love. Love the feel of it, and it just gets to a really great point. And then I'm also using my Degato number 7 round, and I've been quite surprised how these are holding up. For the price point, I thought they'd be all frayed out and not last long, but I've been using these now for several months and I'm quite pleased with them. The other thing I wanted to show you that I do, and I don't think I've shown you that I do this before, is once I go in and pencil out my drawing, I use one of these kneaded erasers, and you can just roll it over your pencil marks, and I swear it's like magic. It lightens it perfectly so you can still see those pencil marks, but you can't, it's not as dark. So I've still got my guidelines, but it's not going to come over into my painting. 1 second, I'm going to grab a brush real quick. 1 second. Okay, I'm coming back. Sorry about that, folks. All right. So these are really quite handy if you're, and sorry, I promise you I'm going to learn to edit. I actually did learn to edit and cut and splice a little, but my phone was having a problem keeping it stored. So I've got to call into Apple and iMovie. But anyway, so this is a really good way. It also tends to pick up any areas that may have smeared. So I really like this. I'll link that for you. They're quite inexpensive, and I think they're called a kneaded eraser. I've had this one for a long time. Okay, the colors I wanted to use, of course, is going to be my Opera Rose, because that's such a penguin color, which is Winsor Newton. So there's that. I mean, that is the perfect penguin color, don't you think? And then I'm going to add in just a tiny bit of purple here and there, just to add in some darker shadowy colors. And then I'm also going to use this blue Winsor Newton color, and I will get you that color. If you have the Mylang set, it's I believe cobalt blue, but I'm using Winsor today. I want to say this is cerulean. So this is going to be quite a whimsical little piece. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then, of course, when we get to, just so you can see the color palette, today we're just doing the penguin, but tomorrow we'll do the little flower, and then I'll be using my olive and my green gold, as you see me. I'm not green gold, sorry, sap green. And my olive green, that's kind of the color. So this little guy, today we'll paint his body, and it will be a combination of these colors right here. And I will be doing some wet and wet, some wet on dry. So let's go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to use my brush and just lightly at the tip, always planting my wrist to keep my hand steady. And I'm just going to go in and put a very light wash of that Opera Rose. So I want it to be a very light value. And that isn't even quite light enough. So there we go. Just color around his little eyeball there. And we'll just get him painted. Just to put a wash down, kind of a base. There we go. I was so excited. I was up, you guys, at 1 in the morning drawing. Ooh, woo-wee. Didn't want to do that. Drawing this little guy, because I had this vision in my head and had to get up and draw it. I got so excited. I couldn't wait to get up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in while that's wet and add in a little of that, I'll clarify the color in the description, but a little bit of that cerulean just to show you how pretty it's going to mix with this. Look at that, isn't that pretty? I love these two colors together for this type of application. I don't know if really you'd ever use it much, maybe for some flowers. What I did just there too, if you noticed, I went in and I just, because I'm trying to keep this so light for our first coats, I just went in with a little bit of a dry brush and picked back up some of that. So now what I'll do is I'll go in with a little bit of that violet and just start touching in here and there, just to add some highlights and things. Look how pretty that is. I just love that. I also want to use orange in this painting because, as you know, I love orange and Opera Rose together. I think it's so beautiful. So you're going to see me going over, once I put these colors down, I'm kind of going over and picking up some of the color, because this first coat, again, I really want to be quite light. So I'm just wiping off my brush and kind of picking up some of what I put in. Now this part I'm going to wait on because that's going to be black, and I don't want to get too, I don't want it to blend into this. So I'm going to go ahead and wait and let that dry a bit, and then we'll go in and add that in. So this is just on his little head here. I love working in layers. And that is one of the things that really attracted me. I'm just using a very light point, by the way, on the tip to watercolor so much, because I could get that those beautiful transparencies. I just think they're so pretty, and something I could only achieve with watercolors. There we go. So I'm just using the tip of my brush and touching in here and there, and just really go by intuition on this. Now I'm going to go in and do the same thing on the rest of his body. So I'm going to pick up that very light wash, which just means it has a lot of water, because that opera rose can be quite intense. And I'm going to go around, and then I may pick up here too. So see, this first coat is a little bit much for me, so I'll probably go in and pick up a little bit of that. And this, what I'm doing right here, by the way, is wet on dry, which is why you don't see it spreading. It's staying right where I place this paint. Just going to do his little tail feathers. And I'll make that little $10 tutorial kit, which will have the drawing and the color swatches and all that kind of fun, good stuff. Let's see, I feel like I want to get a little bit of orange in there. So I'm just going to kind of, touch in. Now this is wet and wet, so I'm getting that spread, which I actually wanted in here. I wanted this orange and this beautiful pink to kind of spread. Let me pick up a little bit more of that opera rose. And I'll go in after this dries and just add in some little tail feathers and such. But right now, just working wet and wet and letting this all kind of blend. So there's his little tail feathers. Now we'll do his skinny little legs. They crack me up, actually. They're so skinny. And I think what I will use for that is a little bit of a variation of that blue, and I'm just going to add in a tiny bit of pink to get his skinny little legs here. Hopefully that isn't too dark in value. I feel like I want a little bit more blue. Yeah, I think I want more blue in there. So I just dried my brush and I picked that up, and I'm going to go into the blue and add in a tiny bit more. And then what I'm doing right now, this is wet on dry, so there's no movement here. So I'm rinsing my brush and I'm just going to go in and add a tiniest bit of water so I can soften these edges. It's a little cute little knobby knees there. Very light pressure with my brush. And then maybe adding in some little pink here and there. I'm really loving this cerulean and the pink together. I think it's very pretty. It's very flamingo-like, don't you think? And then let's go into his foot here. There we go. Okay, let's do the same thing on his other little leg here. And I'm laughing because he has these knobbing little knees. And we're just going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go in a little bit darker at first. And then what I'll do is go in and just, I want to leave a lot of white space here. And then go in and we'll just add in some water to blend it out. So I washed and dried my brush. Make sure you're using your wash and your rinse jar. And just going in with barely a damp brush. So I don't want too much water in here. It's just damp. So there we go. And then I'll add in tiny bits of a very light wash of pink, just here and there. which again, that Opera Rose Pink can be very bright. So you will most likely have to tone it down and then pick it up like I'm doing here, because it really shows up. I'm going to use a tiny bit of that blue. I mean, look at how tiny amounts I'm using. Just the tip of my brush, because his little leg is so skinny. And just adding in some little lines here on his cute little web feet. And then I'll go in and with a damp brush, pick a little bit up, just softening some of these lines. There we go. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna add in just a little bit more pink to that one. Maybe that one. There we go. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so there's our little guy. Let's see if that, so you'll know this is dry enough if it's not shiny and it's not cold to the touch. So I feel it is, so I'm going to go in with, I think what I'm going to do is use my Payne's Gray, but I'm gonna mix it because look at how dark that is. So I'm rinsing off my brush here. Washing and rinsing, and I'm just going to barely tone it down with a tiny bit of that burnt sienna. There we go. And then let's just put a wash over this. So using very light pressure, holding my brush upright, so I just engage that beautiful little tip. And going in and filling that. Now I left a little white space in the middle because there, that's kind of what I wanted to do. I don't like things painted all one color. That's what I love about watercolors, is that transparency. So there we go. I'm just touching up some of those. I think I'll go ahead and do his little eye, which was so tiny. You could even, if this is too challenging to paint that small, just use a pen and you can fill that in. So I think that's all I'm going to do today. And then tomorrow when we come back, we can add in some different layers if we want, and we'll start on our beautiful peony. All right, everybody, I will link all the supplies below, and I will also link this wonderful little kneaded eraser. And happy painting. Join me tomorrow for part 2. All right, happy painting, everybody.